taking 251 people as hostages. Today, more than 2 years after that horrific day, Prime Minister Netanyahu has continued to uphold his commitment to bringing all of our people home and is continuing all efforts to ensure this essential process is completed. Our final 2 hostages are still in captivity right now, and we will continue to do everything to bring them back home. The Israeli government, the Missing People and Hostage Directorate, and our security forces are making extensive efforts for the return of our 2 hostages that are still in Gaza. They are Thai national Sutisak Rintalak and Israeli hostage Ran Gvili. These are people with stories who were both murdered on October 7th. Sutisak was a farmer, and Ran was a hero on October 7th, working to save people. Their families deserve the right to have a proper, dignified burial and to grieve their loved ones. We will be releasing more information about Sutisak and Ran at some point this evening with a video statement about their stories, who they were, and what happened to them on that horrific day of October 7th. I can now share with you that Israel is preparing to receive the remains of one of these hostages around 5 p.m. today. We will only know it is officially one of our hostages once they have been identified by the Forensic Institute. Now, the world has been spun into Hamas's web of lies for nearly 2 years now. 2 years, specifically the media, who has vindicated the terror group by spreading their deception and propaganda routinely. What web of lies, you might ask? The lies about their commitment to the ceasefire, the status of our hostages, and taking Hamas officials' word while reporting on critical stories that shape this conflict and the region. On Tuesday, Hamas spun another web of its lie by claiming they were releasing one of our final 2 hostages in captivity. Instead, the findings that we received were not linked to any of our deceased hostages at all. Let's take a look at the screen right now where we have been tracking Hamas's web of lies since the start of the ceasefire. I'm going to be breaking down different lies Hamas has told over the last few months now. So from the start of this ceasefire up until now. Let's go to the next one. Lie number 1. Hamas publicly said they were committed to the ceasefire more than 51 days ago now. Lie. Hamas repeatedly violated the terms by not only attacking our soldiers, but by not releasing all of our hostages, the living hostages and our deceased hostages. This brings me to the next point. Hamas committed to releasing all of our hostages within 72 hours. That's a lie. More than 50 days later, now we still have 2 hostages that are in captivity. And these are just some of the articles that came out about how Hamas agreed to the first phase of the ceasefire plan. Let's go to the next lie. Lie number 2. Hamas declared they, quote, couldn't locate all of our hostages. Lie. Another lie. More than 50 days later, only 2 hostages remain in Gaza right now. Another lie. Israeli intelligence assesses Hamas knows where they are. We've been saying this for many weeks now. Hamas is aware of where our hostages are. You don't just take hostages and lose them. You need to find them. And Hamas has used the media to propagate this lie. I've seen this over and over again. I've been asked this on interviews as well. Hamas needs more time to recover hostages. Hamas claims it can't find 18 missing Israeli hostages. Hamas says it has handed over all the Israeli hostages that they can recover. We know this is not true. Next lie. Lie number 3. Hamas claimed they found and recovered the body of a hostage a few weeks ago. We all remember this because it was so horrific. Lie. They planted the remains there. Remember this video that came out of our IDF drones? These were the partial remains of an already rescued hostage, Ophir Sarfati, of blessed memory. It was a lie. The entire sequence of events was caught on camera of Hamas planting his partial remains here, pretending to uncover it and give it to the Red Cross. That's the 3rd lie I'm marking right now. Lie 4. A Hamas official tells Reuters yesterday they were handing over the remains of a hostage. Lie. The Prime Minister's office immediately released a statement calling them, quote, findings. Lie again. Forensic Institute determined that these findings were not linked to any of our deceased hostages. And look at all of the headlines about a Hamas official saying they were handing over one of our bodies. Lie, 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 lie. 4 lies I'm counting from the beginning of the ceasefire when this first took place. And like I said, the release of all of our hostages is something that Hamas committed to at the beginning of this plan. Now next, to talk about another important development. The Rafah crossing will be opening shortly. In the first instance, this will be exclusively for the exit of residents from the Gaza Strip who wish to leave to Egypt. The exit will be facilitated through coordination with Egypt, following security approval by Israel, and it's a similar mechanism that operated in January of 2025. The decision was made in full coordination with the mediators of this plan. The Prime Minister has made it clear that if people want to leave Gaza, they should and they will be allowed to do so. The crossing will be opened both ways when all of our hostages have been returned, as per the entire agreement, which we want to happen immediately. Now, on the latest regional developments. Prime Minister Netanyahu visited our wounded reserve soldiers, our heroic soldiers, at Sheba Medical Center this week. These soldiers were part of an operation to apprehend suspects from the Jama Islamiyah terrorist organization in southern Syria, who have advanced terror attacks against Israeli civilians. Now, during the operation, armed terrorists opened fire on our troops, who then acted in self-defense. The Prime Minister praised the soldiers for their actions in battle and wished them a full recovery. He conveyed that Israel is determined to defend our communities on all borders, to prevent terrorists and hostile actions to take place against us, the importance of protecting our Druze allies, and ensuring that the state of Israel is safe from attacks. Prime Minister Netanyahu made it clear that we expect Syria to demilitarize the area from Damascus to the current buffer zone area. He said Israel holds this buffer area to ensure the security of the citizens of Israel, while also sharing optimism that it is possible to reach an agreement with Syria, but we will stand by our principles in all circumstances. Now, next on Lebanon. Prime Minister Netanyahu instructed the acting director of the National Security Council to send a representative on his behalf to a meeting with government and economic officials in Lebanon. I can confirm to you that the Prime Minister met with U.S. envoy Morgan Ortagus on Tuesday before this meeting. Today's meeting in Lebanon is an initial attempt to establish a basis for relationship and economic cooperation between Israel and Lebanon. This is a historic development. Be in no doubt that this direct meeting between Israel and Lebanon took place as a result of Prime Minister Netanyahu's efforts to change the face of the Middle East. As the Prime Minister has said, there are unique opportunities to create peace with our neighbors. The Prime Minister must not be allowed to be diverted from this work. Yes, this is the first step to paving a path with Lebanon, and it's clear that Lebanese recognize the economic challenges they are facing. But Israel has not only a strong economy, but has maintained its resilience during 2 years of war. The shekel has never been so strong, and our economy is scheduled to grow dramatically. Prime Minister Netanyahu has been focused on progressing peace and confronting our mutual enemies that work to destabilize this region. As the Prime Minister has laid out, sitting in court multiple times a week will only limit Israel's potential. I'll now take a few questions. Okay, the first question, Lior Soroka from the Washington Post. On the Rafah crossing, Kogat said the Rafah crossing will open in the coming days exclusively for the exit of Gaza residents into Egypt. When is this expected to happen, and will the crossing operate in both directions? So we're hoping that the Rafah crossing will be open very, very soon, shortly. And you asked specifically about why is this not happening in both directions? Let's go back to where we are. Hamas has not fulfilled their side of this ceasefire. We are waiting for the release of our 2 remaining deceased hostages that are still in captivity. I outlined in this presentation exactly how many times Hamas has lied under this ceasefire plan, specifically more than 50 days ago, by not releasing all of our hostages within 72 hours of when this plan was supposed to go into place. Your second question on the Lebanon meeting regarding the planned meeting with government and economic officials in Lebanon. Who will represent Israel, and when is the meeting scheduled to take place? I shared what I could so far on this. Thanks for your question. Tamar Uriel Berri from Reuters. Why did the Prime Minister speak today about a first attempt to create a relationship with Lebanon if Hezbollah is breaching the ceasefire and rearming? And when will the Prime Minister visit with President Trump in the United States? Israel will continue to defend itself and to ensure that there is no terrorism surrounding our borders. There's no threat to the state of Israel, our civilians, our soldiers, and our security forces. And the meeting that took place was historic, like I mentioned in my briefing. And in terms of the schedule for the Prime Minister, I don't have anything to share with you on that right now. Thomas Helm from the National, can you comment on reports today that civilian representatives from Israel and Lebanon? Yes, I have answered that question. Luca from AFP, could you confirm that the Prime Minister met with Morgan Ortigas yesterday? I shared that in the briefing. Why did the Prime Minister cancel his public address on the conscription law yesterday? The Prime Minister has a tight schedule, and that's exactly what happened. We're hoping that he will release that statement very, very soon. Hannah Julian from the Jewish Edition. As you mentioned, Israel is opening the Rafah crossing to Gazans, but the Egyptian stance is not clear since Egypt has consistently refused to allow entry to Gazans. How will Israel respond if Gazans leave Gaza but cannot enter Egypt, even for the purpose of transiting elsewhere? I don't have anything to add right now on that. Might this mean Gazans traveling through the Erez crossing as an alternative to reach either Ramon Airport or Jordan for transit elsewhere? And what is the timeline for opening the crossing? I've answered that question. And in terms of the information on the Rafah crossing that I shared, that's the information I can provide at this time. Joel Pollack from California Post. Reports suggest that Saudi Arabia is reluctant to normalize relations with Israel. Is that a disappointment, and how does Israel hope to rectify that? I have not seen those reports, so I cannot comment at this time, and I don't have any information to share with you. David Isaac from JNS. Given the repeated violations by Hamas of the ceasefire agreement, as you pointed out at the start of the meeting, does Israel consider itself justified in resuming its war on Hamas? Is it making this argument to the U.S. administration? We're currently in a ceasefire. Israel will continue to defend itself. Let's not forget that our soldiers inside of Gaza are getting attacked by terrorists, and we will continue to act against any terrorism and any threat to our security forces, and like I said, to our civilians, of course, in Israel. We've seen multiple times now, every single week, the IDF is putting information out about terrorists that are crossing over the line and posing an immediate threat to our soldiers. Celine from Sky News. The IDF and Prime Minister's office say Rafah will open soon, but Egypt flatly denies any coordination. How can the crossing open without Egyptian approval, and who do you claim will be eligible to cross if Egypt says it is issuing no permits? Like I said, the information I shared with you on the Rafah crossing is what I can provide at this time. Egypt has been clear about its stance. It says it denies Israeli reports. Egyptian officials deny Israeli media reports. It's the same response that I just had to your first question there. So those are all the questions that I see right now at this time. As always, if you have any more questions, please feel free to reach out to our office. We'll be happy to assist you in any way that we can. Thanks so much for your time today.